So scripture came and it all fit into a perfect ideology. A perfect form of resistance to colonialism, of resistance to occupation, of understanding my own identity, and of asserting myself as a Muslim in Britain who belonged to a global movement. It was thus my duty, my religious duty, to work politically against these tyrannies that existed in our lands. To give my life as the Prophet was willing to give his life, as his companions gave their lives, to remove the rulers of Mecca and eventually the rulers in Medina, to overthrow them in a military coup, because that's what he did. That's what he did. He sought support from the powerful tribes around Medina, and he only deliberately selected those tribes that had enough military might to defend his cause. And his companions were tortured, not because they brought a new religion to remove idolatry and paganism from Mecca, but because they brought an ideology, because they brought a ruling system, because they were trying to remove the rulers of Mecca, the Quraysh. And they were tortured and killed for this purpose, and for this cause alone. And this is Islam. It's a revolutionary doctrine. So I must be prepared to give my life for this revolutionary doctrine. To give my life for overthrowing every single ruler in the Muslim world. Establishing on the ashes of their regimes this one caliphate, which would then have as its foreign policy the expansionist idea of jihad. It would begin by inviting all other countries that surround it to either 1, accept Islam, 2, to pay the jizya, the tax, or 3, to face the sword. Because this is how the Prophet taught us. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. At 16, after adopting this ideology, I left home and I moved to London. And incidentally, I want to say at this point that the story from here on deteriorates, but I take full responsibility for everything I did, which is why I'm here in front of you today. Then I'm not narrating this story so I can gain the sympathy of the people in the crowd, the good people in the crowd. I don't deserve your sympathies. I'm here because I take responsibility for everything I did, and it's my duty to speak out against it. So at 16 I left home to move to East London, to East Ham, and I enrolled at Newham College. Very quickly I became the president of the Students' Union in Newham College, and the rest of the committee, the Students' Union Committee, were elected on a slate. All of them Hizb ut-Tahrir activists, all of them activists of the party that I joined, that had taught me my ideology. We began our mission to recruit everybody in this college to Islamism, to the ideology that I've just described. And very quickly, the situation on campus grew so tense, and the relationship between Muslim students, and I've got to say here, they weren't just Asians, blacks, Somalis, Muslims, all identifying as Muslim students, headed up by their own students' union that was elected by students on the campus. The relationship between these students and the non-Muslims of the campus became very difficult. And this situation eventually led to the murder of a student, a Nigerian student, on campus by a Somali Muslim man who was convicted for the murder, who had been invited onto that campus by activists of Hizb ut-Tahrir on the campus, myself, and Ed Hussein, who sits here at the front, known to me as Mahmoud. We were expelled from the campus. We weren't convicted for the murder because we weren't responsible directly for the crime, but we were responsible for creating the atmosphere on campus that led to this situation, that enabled such a situation to occur. So the whole of the Students' Union from Newham College were expelled in one sweep. I don't think you'll see that again. I returned to my hometown and enrolled to finish my A-levels, being delayed at this point by 1 year. And I began going to Cambridge from Southend to recruit students at Cambridge University to Hizb ut-Tahrir. And then after completing my A-levels, I went to university, gave my oath to the party, and from university became a speaker of Hizb ut-Tahrir. From London, I was asked to take these ideas that I described to Pakistan, which I did, and I left my degree and went to Pakistan for a year, being the first member from Britain to arrive in Lahore to export Hizb ut-Tahrir from London to Pakistan, which now has a very active branch. I came back to complete my degree, and in the second year of my studies, went every weekend to Denmark, having once again been asked by the leadership of Hizb ut-Tahrir to export this ideology to Denmark, and in particular to recruit Pakistani Danish citizens and encourage them to go back to aid the efforts of Pakistan, because Pakistan had become a nuclear power and Hizb ut-Tahrir was aiming to establish the caliphate there and have a nuclear bomb at its disposal. I did this and went every weekend to Denmark and successfully set up a cell in Denmark of exclusively Pakistani Danish members, and then left them to their own devices. One of them had been in the military in Pakistan, and it was our great interest to recruit people from the military, because our methodology was to overthrow the regimes with a military coup. I returned to Britain and then went to Egypt, this time ostensibly not to propagate Hizb ut-Tahrir's ideas, but sent by my university to complete the Arabic part of my degree. And it was there, having arrived one day before the 9/11 attacks, that the atmosphere was created where for the first time British citizens could be tortured in Egypt, because 9/11 allowed for that opportunity to happen. We were convicted to 5 years for being members of Hizb ut-Tahrir in Egypt. And after serving my full time, which in Egypt is 3/4 of your sentence, I returned to Britain and joined the leadership committee of Hizb ut-Tahrir in Britain. And during my time in prison, I had 4 years to study and contemplate and think exactly what it was that I believed in. And it was during these 4 years that I realized what I'm about to tell you now. But I continued being active with Hizb ut-Tahrir for 1 year after my return, because I had dedicated 12 years of my life to this ideology. And questioning the ideology to me felt like questioning my faith. It felt like questioning the very premise of my belief. I was in a process of psychological denial. And so for 1 year after returning to Britain, I continued just as active as I was before, up and down the country doing talks. But those who knew me well had realized that my language had subtly changed. And the reason for that was that until I was absolutely certain that I no longer believed in Islamism as an ideology, I had to play my cards close to myself, lest I get removed, expelled from the party, which I may end up still believing in. What ideas occurred to me in prison through much study were the following, and I wish to address 3 points. Our understanding of religion as Muslims, our understanding of our identity, and our understanding of politics. And these are 3 essential points I believe have been grossly misunderstood. Islam is a deen, is a religion. The Arabic word deen is used in the Quran to even describe Christianity. I was taught that deen means ideology. I was taught that Islam is an ideology, like communism and capitalism, which is why the blog ahead of this talk was entitled, the blog I wrote, was entitled Islamism, the last man-made ideology. So Islam is a religion. And what does that mean? It means, yes, I'm still an adherent Muslim. I still have the very same belief I had before. I still believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that He revealed the Quran to Khatam al-Anbiya, the final messenger, the seal of the prophets, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who brought for us a sharia for us to adhere to in our personal lives, in our relationships with others. He brought to us a religious code. And this religion of Islam can cater for more than one political direction. It can cater for more than one political theory, because it does not have intrinsic to it a political theory. God did not reveal an ideology. God did not reveal a system of governance, one fixed system of governance. God did not reveal one fixed economic system, but revealed guidelines which man can then interpret based upon what he understands is the best way to do things and what is in the interest of the people. This is Islam as I understand it. And if I look back to what I believed in and what I was taught, so much of it is open to interpretation, and so much of it is open and has been interpreted in different ways by so many different theologians and jurists, that there's only one conclusion that Muslims can come to, that there is no one fixed system of governance. This whole notion of one universal caliphate with a predefined economic system, a predefined political system, this is the stuff of dreams. It's fallacy. And I'm not pulling my punches because I know what I believe.